Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Michael Cox. I am a professional actor in Canada.
Tell me about Sheridan. Why did you choose it first of all?
I chose Sheridan College because I was auditioning for, I knew I wanted to go into theater, and I always loved musical theater, and I had a teacher in high school who, as I was just putting out my feelers of what kind of school do I want to go to, and they suggested, oh, you should probably look at the Sheridan program, it's kind of up your alley, and I submitted to that school like just before the final date to get all your stuff in, and it was my first audition for post-secondary theater schools, and just the atmosphere of the place, the friendliness of everybody there, and everybody was very just eager to know who you are and what you can do, and supportive, and just really genuinely nurturing of what everybody had and wanted to see and get the best out of you. And I fell in love with that one, even though it was my first one. I still had another couple schools to audition for. It was the one that had the biggest effect on me, and I'm really happy that they liked me enough, and I got to go there and kind of put my whole career on a good path, I gotta say.
What were the auditions like? What do you remember about it?
I remember showing up for my audition bright and early. I showed up, there's the basement in G Wing at Sheridan is where all the musical theater kids live, and I showed up there before anybody else. I was there way too early. I think my audition started around 8 or 9, no, it started at 9, and I was there at 7:30 because I was I need to get there early, and it was just me and my dad sitting in the basement waiting for an hour, and then, everybody started slowly coming in being oh, what are you doing here? Do you need a coffee? Are you auditioning? Oh, we haven't even set up yet. Nobody had arrived, and they did an audition of a dance call, where you see what your dancing ability is like across the floors, combination, just seeing what level of movement or dance you can do, and then it goes on to a panel where you do a monologue and 2 songs, and I was really nervous about that. Went in there and, tried to remember they're just looking for somebody to come in, they want you to be, they want to see what you have, what potential you have, and I got the redirection and had fun just doing the pieces that I had prepared, and then afterwards I remember walking out, and they have this code RDA that they write. I don't know if they do it anymore, but at the time they did it, and it said RDA. It's recommended direct acceptance, and that goes on to the panel in front of the actual heads of the program, each discipline. And I got to go in there, and you do the same thing. You do your monologue and your 2 songs in front of them, and they get to sit down and get to know you. It was the first time actually felt like a real life audition, and I was just eager theater nerd, just happy to be there. And then that was my day, and it took hours. It was a full afternoon into about 5 o'clock, and that I just remember talking to my dad afterwards on the drive home and being that was the best experience I've ever had. I loved it.
And when did you hear about the CMTP project?
We didn't hear about the CMTP project until I was going into 3rd year. It was the class that I was in was the second last year of the diploma program before it turned into a 4-year Bachelor of Fine Arts. And Michael Rubinoff was just coming into to the school, into the program, and he had this idea of creating a project for new works, and we were going to be kind of the guinea pig year of what it could be. See, like, test the water, see if, if the program would like it, or suit it, or feed it, or anything. And we kind of got word of it just before heading into our last year, which was third year, knowing that auditions for the second semester shows are usually in December, and you just go in, and usually, you go in for shows, you know the show, you research the show, and you prep all the material that you know you want to do. But CMTP, Canadian Musical Theatre Project, we had no idea what we were doing. It's brand new work, so you just go in with what you kind of got the description of what show it was or what style it was. They didn't give us really any more than just like, it's going to be kind of this style of musical or this kind of writing. And you just kind of went in, got to know the writers and the director that they are working with, and you just kind of played with them in the room. And I remember it was in the audio recording room in the basement of H-Wing, another musical theater place in Sheridan. And it was just in a tiny room, and it's just you, and it was David Ferry and David and Irene. And just did a monologue with a Newfoundland accent, and a song, and then they kind of just got to know you, pulled stuff out of you, and I remember David Ferry being who he is. I've worked with him since graduating. He's just a wonderful, wonderful man, and he just loves to pull stories out of you and gets to know you really eagerly and very just personally, just open. And he realized he was like, oh, you're a musician too, so like, do you know any Newfoundland musicians? And of course I knew Great Big Sea, so on the spot he's like, okay, sing me your favorite Great Big Sea song. And just started going off, singing a Great Big Sea song for them, some traditional folk music that I grew up with. And it was just a lot of fun. It was just that joyous camaraderie of just, love the culture and the music, and didn't know what was going to come of it, of course. We didn't know what we were going to be working on. It was just something kind of Newfoundland folky. And that was the only info we had going into it. And the Canadian Musical Theatre Project also had another show that was going on, and they had another room next to it, and you had to audition similar for them, but they were more musical theatre style. So they did a completely different style of audition, and you didn't know what you were getting because you had no concept of what it was going to be, because it was base level. They had an idea and they were going to build from that. They had some material and they were going to kind of use us to like work it out. That's all we knew. Our first inkling into how a musical could possibly be conceived from the base level.
And what was the monologue about? Did they choose it?
No, it was up to you. I chose a monologue from Saltwater Moon, the famous Newfoundland play.
What was next? When did you find out what the musical is actually about?
We kind of found out the first day of rehearsal. We came back after Christmas break. No, it wasn't Christmas break. It was second term in second semester. So we came back after reading week and sat down in the dance studio, tables all around us, and they brought in printed off a stack of verbatim text that they got from their interviews when they went to Newfoundland. And they gave each person a binder of this huge stack of verbatim text, and they're like, so, we're doing a story, we're trying to create a musical about this story of all these planes landing in Gander, Newfoundland during 9/11. And of course everybody in the room goes, oh, so it's about 9/11? This is going to be dark. This is going to be like, can we do this? Is this the kind of musical we want to do? But of course they kind of saw that coming. They saw that people would gravitate towards that right away as soon as you hear that. they'll go, ooh, I don't know if you should write a musical about that. And they, assured us like, no, it's not about 9/11. It's about what happened to this town, this community, in the toughest time, in a time of desperation and just the world coming at you out of nowhere, and their reaction to the problem. And their reaction to the problem, of course, was helping, taking in, nurturing, trying to give love in any possible way to make sure that they felt safe in a time of total chaos, it felt like, in the world. And that first day we did a lot of talk about where we were on 9/11 and how we felt. And then we had a whole round table discussion about that, each person telling about, everybody knew exactly where they were and what happened, and how they felt, and what was going to happen with the world. But then quickly got to, like, all right, now we're just going to read through the text. We're going to read this chunk, and it was Act 1. That was just Act 1. And I started reading it out, and just the stories and the jokes and the camaraderie that these people had for each other was just uplifting, knowing that we just spent a whole time discussing about this like very dark personal time of unknowing where the world is going to be, and through all this this verbatim interviews, it was fantastic to see that they didn't know either, but all they knew was like, well, make sure everybody's okay. That's all it came down to. It's like, is everybody okay? How can we like lift up their spirits and make sure that no bad thing might have happened, but we're going to make sure that everybody is okay.
What do you remember about reading it? Like, what really stood out?
What really stood out to me was the power of trying, the difficulty and the power of trying to write a musical verbatim, because that was the original concept they came with, was this is going to be a verbatim musical. Every word that we use is going to be from the mouth of the person that said it, and we're going to put it into music. And David had come with some songs and some ideas of music from the traditional folk sense of Newfoundland, and we thought, oh my God, this is gonna be so hard. Like, we have so much material and we have to cut it down. Like, we spent 3 hours reading just Act 1 because that's what they had, and they didn't know where it was going to end. They didn't know what real trajectory it was going to take. But after that first reading, the next day, like, Irene came in the next day with like slashes through everything. It's like, okay, we have to cut this, we have to cut that. That didn't make sense to me, because once she heard it out loud, and once David and Irene heard it out loud, they knew, like, okay, so we can't do that storyline, we can't do that, we'll amalgamate this. It became a lot of like fitting the puzzle pieces together. And that was really cool to see. Like, their brains were just always working and always changing to see what story could come out of like a whole town story. How all these people could just, like a whole town could just be one voice.
What character did you play?
I played Claude Elliott. I was the mayor of Newfoundland. Well, not Newfoundland, of Gander, Newfoundland. I wish. And I remember researching and like looking at interviews of him, and I was very lucky enough to get to meet him when they come from away to Gander, Newfoundland. I got to actually meet him.
So you went to Gander?
Yeah, I went to Gander with the Broadway company. Before they went to Broadway, they went to Gander, Newfoundland to do a 2-day event and showing the show to the town of Gander as a thank you. And we got to meet all the real life people, like every single member of that community and the surrounding communities that were all a part of this story, all came and packed an arena, and it was like a rock concert. It was amazing. Like, to see how proud Claude was to see this in person in his community where it all began was something very special. And I think I tried my hardest during during the first workshop of in CMTP to try and really see how hard he worked to help everybody involved and get his community together. And then meeting him, he's just that big, kind-hearted, open-armed person. And kind of all wrapped everything in a nice bow after that.
What was it like to see their performance after your own workshop?
It was really cool. It was amazing to see it because after we did the first reading, like first public reading to an audience, and it was just Act 1 with a couple songs and little blocking, little things, and like a couple extra songs at the end. And then when I got to see it in kind of the same style, the next time I saw it was this concert version, kind of like we did at Sheridan, in an arena with the same building blocks, like all the blueprints that we hacked out day after day, cutting the script down and making sure things worked, and little bits that we thought were just so funny or so integral to the message that they're trying to tell. We're all still there. Everything that I remember saying, they were still saying on stage, and then more. And it was awe-inspiring to go like, I remember reading that line and going, oh, I love this bit. And it was still kept in it. Little jokes that we would do in rehearsals were molded into that foundation, and it just kept blossoming. Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, they constantly changed the text, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you deal with this amount of rewritten text? I mean, how did you manage to memorize everything?
Oh, it was it was a task because everything was changing every day. But they were working on a deadline to have a finished script, at least like a majority of a finished script a week before the presentation. They could change lines here and there, little scenes, but the majority of the script, the outline of how we're going to do this show, of how we're going to present this work, was kind of like fixed. And then you can do little minute changes here and there, changing that line or cutting one line and giving it to another person or something like that. But it was a fantastic exercise on how ready and willing you have to be to kind of change at the drop of a hat, to come in the next day and be like, oh, that scene that you loved, we had to cut that, there was no time for it. The character that you were doing is actually now going to mold into 3 characters. Or like 3 characters are now just going to be 1 person. It just worked that way. And you had to flow with it because the job that we were given and like privileged to do was to help create the story. We were just like the people to get it on its feet, to give it life, but knowing that it changes at the drop of a hat. And like the phrase that I love saying is like, you got to kill your babies when you're creating a new script. So if it was something that you really love, but you have to be willing to just toss it out the window if it's not working. If it doesn't fit into the story, or it's like, oh, I really love this, it's so much fun, this character, I worked so hard on memorizing this scene or this monologue or this text. But it could disappear because it doesn't suit or doesn't fit the overlying arc, or there's something better that they thought of and they're going to change it and make it even better that you don't even know. So that was a challenge to see how quickly you can adapt and how like text can change so drastically really fast, but it's all part of it. And it wasn't like you have to be memorized. I always had everybody had like scripts in their hands or little text, and we would go scene by scene. And when you're on your feet, at least for me and like people that the whole cast and all my friends in the show, when we were doing it, once we were living it and breathing it, it was just in our body, it was just coming out, and it just happened that way. It was able to flow out of us and just repetitiveness, and it would work, and then if it didn't, you just forgot about it and moved on to the next scene.
What do you miss the most from the material that was omitted? Like discarded? What do you miss the most from the material that was discarded?
Oh,
is there something?
Okay, this is just selfishly, but there was this one song that I miss. It was just a ridiculous scene, because David wrote a song about Werner Balsanderini, the head of Hugo Boss at the time, and it was just a song about him, and a scene in a song about him in Newfoundland, how he couldn't wear any good clothes, and how a tailor knew he was there and made him the finest suit he could make. A tailor who tried to, be the thing that this person needed was a really good fitting clothes, because he's a fashion designer, so he went and he made him the best suit he could and brought it to him. He was so happy. And then there's a whole song about it, and there's a rap in the middle, like a David rap in the middle of this song. It was fantastic, and we would laugh so hard every time. Did it fit the story that they were trying to tell? Maybe not so much, but damn, it was fun.
Do you remember some of the lyrics? A sentence or?
I just remember the chorus was like, Werner Balsanderini, dent, 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 bum, bum. That's the biggest part I remember. I can't remember the rap anymore, but it was too good.
And how many songs did you have?
There were, because of the nature of Come From Away, we were a part of every song. There was, at the beginning, it was a whole ensemble piece. We would have solos inside the songs, Costume Party, that is still in the song, still in the musical, was from the point of view of kind of everybody off the top, so everybody had little solo lines. It wasn't fit into a character or two characters. It was everybody had little bits and pieces and little duets. The whole nature of Come From Away from the Top was an ensemble piece. There wasn't really, at the base of it, that Act 1 and a couple songs extra, everything was ensemble, everything was together, everything was, nothing was a solo or a feature bigger than the piece. Everything moved through us to tell the story. So we all had little lines, little bits, little solo moments, but we were all collectively singing everything. From the top of the show, Welcome to the Townies and that come from always. I was really lucky enough because I knew how to play the boron. I got to start the show and I got to sing that first line, and then each person would take it, and it would go off, and that was my crowning moment. Is I got to start the show, I got to count the band in, and we got to rock into the show.
Was the song Washington from the second workshop or from the first?
Washington was conceived in the second workshop. The first workshop, they had an idea that I remember talking to David one day, and we were talking about what else are you thinking about moving forward with the project? And I remember him telling me he wants to do a song from Claude's point of view in Washington D.C. accepting the award on behalf of Gander, Newfoundland. And I thought it was so cool. And then the next year, Sheridan did it again, and a friend of mine, Trevor Patt, played Claude Elliott that year, and he got to sing Washington, and it's just a beautiful, gorgeous song, and it was really moving, just the power of it. Sad that it had to get cut. But gotta kill the baby sometime.
Yeah, I heard it the first time when I was interviewing Michael Robinov in June,
Oh yeah?
2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And before the interview, he started playing it, and I was like, oh my god, that's perfect.
It is. It was a perfect, like, cohesiveness to the piece in my mind. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw it as like the ending moving towards Claude, kind of like his speech. Like I rewatched the actual speech that he gave when he was accepting the award in Washington, and it's so moving. It's so powerful. It's like this isn't an award for me. I didn't do anything. I was just helping out. That's what we were all doing. Getting teary-eyed about it right now. And to bring it back into that last number, which is a reprise of the first number, and just the way that David used the song flowing back into a traditional Newfoundland, like Celtic song at the end, like a traditional shanty or something like that, right back into that closing number was just heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. Like you're crying, but at the same time you just want more and you want to party. You want to get up on your feet and dance with them. I loved it.
Wait, where did you find the speech of Claude Elliott?
It was on. There was at the time I think I looked at the CBC archives because there was a CBC. They filmed it because it was the 10th anniversary. So they found that I found that in CBC, and I think there was also a YouTube link, but I think the one that I watched was through CBC.
Did you have to actually go to the archive, or was it like online database?
Oh, their digital archive online.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see it yet. I should.
Yeah, it's during the 10th anniversary ceremony that is really beautiful.
What was it like to, I don't know, be a part of this development of a new musical, like from scratch, you know?
It was really bewildering and amazing at the same time. And that's where I really grew into this passion and love for wanting something new, some new stories and these amazing capabilities that we have to tell these beautiful stories that aren't the like quote traditional Canadian musical theatres. Like we can keep growing and do something even more. And the unknowing of what the material is going to be was my favorite part. Every day we would work on it. We were just going, what is this? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be special? But every day we were doing it, everybody had this feeling like this is something important. This is something amazing. We all had our hearts invested into it, and every time we saw somebody after the show, after the presentations, they'd be saying, "Oh, this can't be the end of it. This is bound for something greater. This is bound for like people." Even after that first reading in H-Wing, would say, "This is going somewhere. This is bound for Broadway. This is amazing. This is just the tip of the iceberg right now."
How many people came to the presentation?
We had seating for about, I'd say like 100. No, not even 100. About like 50, 60 people in a dance studio in H-Wing, and we had a backdrop and then our chairs, and that was it. We had like a couple of spotlights, a couple like rigged up lights, and that was all we had. The band in the corner, and from that it just kept growing, but it was just like small groups of people would come in and watch the presentation of CMTP and see what these new works have the capability to do, and if there is an incubator and if somebody could just give life to some stories, look at what it could be. Look at everything. It was pretty cool.
I heard that David was in the band.
Yeah, David was in the band. That was the best part. David would be sitting, tuning his guitar, and leading the band every show. And that's why he loved the line, the drunkest people in the room are playing in the band. And he would always woo from the corner. That was his favorite bit, I think. He would always, like, the drunkest people in the band, the drunkest people in the room are playing in the band, woo! As he's playing guitar with everybody. It was really fun. To have that energy and that, because he was like, just so passionate about the music, and to have his energy there to connect with all of us who were doing it, from the band to the stage management to the full cast, it was palpable. It was really, really inspiring to have that there.
And how many performances did you do?
We did. I'm not quite sure. I think we did 2 weeks, 2 or 3 week run of 7 shows a week. So we got like 14 shows, 14 presentations, maybe a little bit more, and then we did 2 presentations at the Panasonic Theatre in Toronto for people like investors or ADs of theaters, and anybody who could, take it forward. Anybody who was like, look at the potential. Is this something you would want to do? Yeah.
What was the schedule like when you rehearsed it?
The schedule was like, we would have rehearsals every day. So we would get the rehearsal schedule the night before, and it was, 10 till 6, or then we would go into the evening as well if we had classes. And it was very loose because it was a new work. So it wasn't like, today we're going to do this scene and block it out. It was more, I think the schedule was more, we're going to show up, we're going to work on maybe this section of the play if the text is there. Because Irene was constantly re-editing, constantly working on it as well with David, and David was rewriting music and rewriting harmonies, and it was just all on the fly. If we didn't have the script for a certain scene we wanted to work on, we would go back and work on another scene. And once the text was there, we would read through it, we would go and try and figure out what it meant to the story, what it meant to the characters, how it would flow, and try and put it on our feet and our bodies and work with it, with the music that came afterwards. And the next day it could be something completely different. It could be, that whole thing didn't work, so we're going to go back to the top.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to talk about? I mean, is there anything I should have asked you about but didn't?
Yeah, you're asking all the right questions. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. The thing about this way of storytelling too, about the way that Come From Away came together, was very unique, and you see now it has inspired new ways of writing in Canada, and a new way of feeling about your work here in the Canadian musical theatre scene. It has given inspiration, and it's given hope, and it's given this this drive to have the stories that we want to tell and the pride behind it, and the way we can just fly with the seat of our pants and just step by step keep working on it and keep working on it, because you never know. And it's been a big renaissance for the Canadian musical theatre scene, I think. Since Come From Away, there's been a new want and drive from audiences and theatres across the country to want to see more of that. They want to see more Come From Away. They want to see more stories written in a way from a Canadian point of view, but they don't have to be a Canadian story. It doesn't have to be a single identity. It could be a huge undertaking, like trying to tell a town story through just a small cast of many characters, many different points of view, but we all can funnel it into a very unique way of telling it. And there's this new style that's coming out, I see, with a lot of new writers that are very influenced from come from a way of a multiple point of view, and it kind of makes me reflect and go like, oh, that really was like, you know, I was at the ground level of that, and it was really cool to see, and how it's influenced people, and I wouldn't even guess that at the time. I knew it was special, I knew it was something really cool, and it drove me to what I do in theater today, but wouldn't have guessed it at the time.
Misa, what do you do in theater today?
I'm a professional actor, so I do musical theater and theater across country. I've been in productions from Newfoundland to Alberta, haven't made it to BC yet. I'll make it there someday.
I love Alberta, I lived there for 2 years.
Oh yeah?
In Edmonton.
Nice. Yeah, Edmonton, like the theater scenes in every community I've found that I've had the luck to perform in, every theater community has this really driving passion right now of just like they want stories, and they want to lift each other up. They want everybody to take everything on wholeheartedly with such passion, with such drive, and everybody's really supportive and really inspiring. From like the artists I've met in Edmonton to Winnipeg, Halifax to St. John's, like it's amazing. It doesn't matter how big the theater is, and it doesn't matter how small the theater is. It's just everybody's there, and everybody wants it, and everybody is so emboldened.
How did Sheridan prepare you for your career?
Sheridan was very helpful, like how I perceive in my career, because I wanted a school to give me a really good balance of practical training and kind of the more philosophical, heady, knowledgeable the way of theater. I found it the perfect balance of like research, knowledge, and you know, the book work that you have to do, but also theater is a living, breathing art form, and acting and singing and dancing. We danced every day for 3 years. We're constantly taking acting tutorials and acting classes that would give you conflicting notes sometimes. You get different teachers who have different point of views from the spectrum of theater across Canada, and it was up to you what you took from it. And they wanted that. They wanted to like bombard you with a lot of information, a lot of point of views, and a lot of amazing mentorship and teaching, but at the end you had to know who you were, and you wanted to know what drove you the most. For me, when I was there, the thing that drove me the most was the little acting through music. When you sing and how you emote and how you phrase and how you can tell a whole story like a monologue that you're singing, and it's wonderful. And it was just little bits of knowledge dropped through every class and every tutorial and every relationship too. And that was a key thing with Sheridan, is the learning. I didn't know, it's not part of the curriculum, but just like relationship to directors, a relationship to choreographers, a relationship to coaches and everything, and how integral it is in the theater industry and in acting in general. And it's it's all on the surface and not at the same time, and it's made me a better actor and a better performer for it. Yeah.
What's the best advice you have ever been given?
In retrospect, it was an acting class, and I was doing a Shakespeare monologue, and I worked so hard on it. I worked like every day working on it with friends or by myself, and editing it, and like really analyzing the text and how it connected to me, and like doing all these different ways. And I presented it in class, and I had a teacher. He just sat back and he went, "Is that bullshit or brilliance?" And at the time, I was so angry about it. And then as the years trickle by, I kind of realized, like, isn't that the key to acting? It's like, is it bullshit or is it brilliance? Because bullshit could be brilliance at the same time. And that's kind of acting. You just commit to it. Do you believe it? Do you not? But what did they think? Because you're conveying the message, you're conveying the words, the text. So bullshit or brilliance? It's up to everybody else.
Nice. And the last question? The last question?
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember about the first meeting with Michael Rubinoff?
I remember the first... Rubinoff and I have also we've grown this amazing friendship at the same time because of the work that I got to do with CMTP. Because he would always come in, he would always check out the shows and see how, everybody was doing. So it was never like a sit-down meeting, and like he presented himself to the class and the program, of course, but it was just little interactions here and there. It was when I was doing Oklahoma, and I would always go backstage, and I would wait for the top of the show, and I would be alone, just getting ready to go out on stage. And Michael would do a speech right before, and then he would come back, and he would always just like come by, smile, just like have fun, like great crowd tonight. Just little quips back and forth, and that just kind of grew naturally, and we would just talk about theater and what we were doing and what was happening, because I was close to graduation, like what's happening on the outside and what is the potential of theater. So he was a very inspiring and very driven individual, and that's what I got from him, this passion and drive, and it's just like, I want to see this happen, and he went out and made it happen, and that's an amazing quality to have, not just in Michael Rubinoff as producer and at the time associate dean of Sheridan, but as just a friend and a true lover of theater.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the end of the interview.